paused.
Hello everyone,
Battle
and welcome back
started.
to the Brightworks in another match of Beyond All Reason, where today we're going to be taking a look
Battle
at a
started.
16 versus
Battle
16
paused.
battle started, battle
started.
paused. I think we're waiting because this was a 16 versus 16. A lot of these players probably disconnected is why you're hearing that. Battle started, battle paused. Anyways, yes, a 16 versus 16, 16 players per team on a map, of course, that goes by the name of River Run. Not one we've seen all too often, not all too recently anyways. It's definitely a popular map, it's a fun map, so I'm very excited to see what these commanders get up to. And today, spawning as the blue team leader right here on the front lines is the Cortex commander. It's going to be none other than Che. Che, hailing from Germany with 34 open skill and silver chevrons to boot, going to be far and away leading the pack right here for the blue team as far as experience and open skill goes. Going to be showing us what they've got right here on the front lines as well, which is always cool to see. I'm excited to see exactly how this blue team commander wants to play this very unorthodox version of this regular style of game, this irregular style of game, really. Spawning on the other side, spawning as the red team leader, also as a Cortex commander, but on the northern side here, it's going to be Hoxie. Hoxie clocking in at 38
Battle
open
paused.
skill and silver tail chevron
Battle
as well.
started.
A little bit of unpause, repause. You're going to have to bear with me here. Certainly, it just is one of those things that you have to deal with when you're doing these extra large team games here. We have basically 2 teams per team here. Sometimes you have some players disconnect, and it's usually best if you can manage to get them to rejoin. But anyway, Hoxie clocking in at 38 open skill and going to be showing us some good old-fashioned Cortex moves on the northern side of River Run, pardon me. River Run, definitely an interesting map. One of those maps that, yeah, I feel like it's not super common, but it definitely gets its moments, and I think it's a great map. I've also seen some wonderful mutations of this map. I believe it was Hornet that was working on a lot of the mutations for things, and one of the mutations basically said, essentially all the water turned into land and all the land turned into water. So what you had were these little land bridges connecting everything and these big water pools all over the place that were kind of in between everything else. It was really fun to play. A lot of hovercraft shenanigans, a lot of boat shenanigans. People were using their Cortex and, using their commanders in general to self-destruct to blow up the land bridges so boats could get through. It was a really fun mutation. But today we're going to be seeing what 16 commanders per team looks like. And I do wonder if we've got any sort of communism going on. Typically, that's the strategy. Whenever you have extra commanders, you have to remember each of these commanders, not only is it starting with another extra 1,000 metal in the bank, but that's also another 1.25 thousand metal on the field in the form of just a pure commander. Worth remembering because it does mean you can get those T2 labs up real quick. Back in the day, like that match I covered a little while back, the way back match, a replay from a long time ago. Watching that was pretty funny because it did give me some perspective. The commander used to be worth 2,000 metal, which is like, considering a lab cost 2,900, 2,000 metal on a commander's corpse meant basically you could have built a T2 from the start of the game. You had to build a little bit of energy production, but other than that, you really were ready to start T2 as soon as the match started, which is just kind of crazy to think about, huh? Anyways, the blue team here, a little bit less aggressive, I want to say, than the red team. Yeah, it looks like the yellow commander here, Jammers, yeah, that's like almost a golden colored commander right there, sending out a couple of units on the field. We've got grunts across the river here. Cortex definitely going to have an advantage on this map. So you may notice that these little water walkways are going to be quite a pain for ticks to cross. And indeed, there is actually only one spot on this map where ticks can cross. Well, technically there's 2. Right here and right here are the only 2 lanes where ticks can actually cross the water. Other than that, every one of these little islands, I guess you could call them, these little river islands are segmented off and safe from tick and rover. Well, actually, I believe rovers and rascals can get through. It's just that Armada T1 scout bot that can't cross the water. What does that mean, though? It means that mostly these commanders are just going to be slowed down a little bit here. You can see the grunts are wonderful for pushing forward, but as soon as the commanders get up there, they start setting up those LLTs and start engaging. You know what? That fight, not the best fight. Yeah. Our brown commander here, human being, doing a great job of lining up those grunts and keeping him in position. Presator probably could have taken that fight from a slightly better angle and managed to, hold the line a little bit easier there. Not the end of the world as the commander basically single-handedly blasts down everything else right here, moving its way up the hillside right now in order to shut down the twin guard that is coming up from the constructor here. I'm going to go ahead and close the enemies tab, by the way, so that this doesn't take up the entire right-hand side of the screen. Just about half of the entire right-hand side of this screen. It's pretty chaotic, yeah. Whenever you do get those... Ooh, a Deegan right there. I would love to see a capture command. It's one of those things I love about watching those programs is how often they utilize that capture command to their own ends. You can imagine, right? Capturing that twin guard and then finishing it so that you actually have the twin guard up on this hillside would be very, very useful. Yeah, it would definitely provide you with quite a strategic asset on the high ground. We all know the high ground is superior. Obi-Wan's teachings have taught us all well. Pardon me while I crack open a beverage. About to go on a big long vacation, about a week long, just shy of a week long vacation, so I'm recording a bunch of these videos in advance. So today is the day. My voice sounds a little bit hoarse, you'll know why. That's the reason. But it means I get to spend all day watching a bunch of games of Beyond All Reason, which is, I mean, far from the worst thing, right? As a longtime fan of the game, and definitely somebody who enjoys this game, I would say probably more than most, like above average, right? I'm above the, you know, if you imagine the bell curve of people enjoying bar, I'm probably right about here, right? Maybe there. Yeah, I enjoy this game a ridiculous degree, to a ludicrous degree. Nice catch right here on the right-hand side, by the way, by Angelic XS. I was watching the Blitzes dig it shut down quite nicely. Meanwhile, the Grunts are pulled over on this left-hand side, a big old battle. Well, yeah, towards the middle of the map here. The Golden Grunt shutting down the construction worker here, the construction bot, and blasting apart a whole bunch of those blue bots as well. Those Grunts are going to have a rough time recuperating from that. We do have aggravators headed up to the front line in order to try and blast down some of these statics. Obviously, blasting down those T1 static defenses is important because it opens up lanes where you can go ahead and attack your enemy through, just like this one right here. The Pink Commander recognizing, hey, with the Blue Commander preoccupied and with most of their units destroyed right here, it means suddenly there's an opportunity path. Nicely done right now by our sort of maroon-purplish commander here, Etrelis, the 8 open skill hero, hailing with a silver tail chevron as well. I'm pretty impressed, actually, by these teams. I want to say these are relatively experienced teams, although the open skills aren't, you know, crazy up there on the leaderboards. The playtime, which is indicated by the chevrons on the left-hand side, definitely up there for both of these teams, I want to say, yeah. Pretty experienced players all around right here, which is really cool to see. A little bit of grunt warfare going on all over the place. We have some interesting battles going on the northern side here, as well as some Centurion move out on the field to try and reinforce the Rocketeers pushing forward. Centurion Rocketeer, one of the most stalwart offenses available to Armada commanders. Centurion, obviously, quite expensive at 270 metal apiece. But for that metal, you do get quite a lot of value. Legion is enabled, by the way, in case you were wondering what this sexy beast over here on the southern side is. That's the Legion Commander firing its little heat ray gun. I love the design on those, by the way. The little kind of, I don't know, the prongs accelerating the heat beam or whatever. I don't know how it works. I'm sure some talented storyboarding artist will eventually come up with an appropriate lore for Legion and by proxy all the rest of Cortex and Armada, but for the time being, it's just me making it up as I go along. I hope people realize that, by the way. Oftentimes I'll talk about random things. I have headcanon about how all the technology in this universe works, but I am not sanctioned by the devs. I have absolutely no authority to make any of it up. I just tend to, because it's what I do anyways in my mind palace. Priceator holding this high ground right here. The geothermal is really the main reason to hold it, though, so I'm a little surprised to see the Blue Commander hasn't set one of those up already. Building a forward bot lab, maybe not a bad idea. Does Priceator... yeah, actually doesn't have any other buildings or anything, so it really is just charity from the back. Oh no, pardon me. Okay, here we go. We do have a backline over here. Yeah, sending a constructor forward to go build that geothermal, or in some dire cases, it's worth it to just build a lab. Because it's so far away right here, you can imagine building a laboratory on this, building the constructor, and then eating up the laboratory might be the best option here for our Dark Cyan hero right here, just because getting a constructor all the way up there is actually going to take forever. A very slow siege right here on Jammer's LLT Forest. You can see the Yellow Commander just set to repair all these turrets over here as the missile trucks start to blast them down. Slowly but surely whittling down these LLTs, though, and there's only so much the Commander can repair. With proper micro, can keep these alive for quite a while, but it's an APM tax, right? And if you're constantly microing the appropriate one, it means you're not going to be paying attention elsewhere. And there is a rocket battle going on. One LLT goes down, and it's really only a matter of time before the rest of them fall here as well. These missile trucks, they've been buffed recently, not super recently, but their most recent buff was increasing their damage, basically substituting a little bit more payload for their tracking and guidance systems, so they no longer have their fin stabilizers. They no longer have any of their tracking software or hardware. Instead, they've crammed it full of a little bit more explosive, right? So their explosive yield is about 20% more powerful, and they no longer can track their targets like they once were able to. A worthwhile change, I would say, and Armada, quick to pick up, is actually a Cortex engineer that figured it out, but Armada engineers replicated it almost instantaneously after realizing that no longer were those essentially necessary as tracking units on the front line, with most units able to deal with spam on the front relatively easily anyway, Blitzen and Sizer especially. It really made no sense to make those have that tracking as opposed to allowing them to do a little bit more damage. Decurion on the front line, supported by Helios and a couple of those lances as well. Maybe one of the best named units in the game, the lance. Does exactly what you might imagine it does. It fires one high concentrated blast, high energy, high impact concentrated blast. Basically a railgun. I'm not entirely sure if Legion engineers use particle rail accelerators or they use magnetic rail accelerators. I really am not sure how that technology works, but I can tell you this much. It hurts to be on the other end of it because those rail cannons, those lances, they definitely do a lot of damage. And the longer you stay under their fire, the more value they get. They're definitely one of those siege units that gets immense value the longer they manage to continue firing at you. Getting dangerously close to the base here for the Blue Commander. Shea is marching forward with the comm, trying to keep this base up and running. We do have a Rattlesnake coming up and online right now in about 20 seconds or so, depending, of course, on the amount of production that's available. We are stalling on resources. Shuriken here to paralyze a bunch of this. Oh, nicely done. Huge Shuriken pull right here on the southern side, actually, buying a lot of time for the Blue Commander to address a lot of the issues here, mounting on the front line. The Decurion tank parked right in front right here, right where you want it to be. Decurions are very, very sturdy, don't do very much damage, so they're basically just an HP pool that commanders can make use of. Relatively low metal cost for the amount of HP that you get out of them. Shea hoping that this Rattlesnake will be the savior necessary here on the front line. I would love to see some more Shuriken, though, yeah. A couple more Shuriken to shut down these Rocketeers, and the Blue Commander is in a really good spot. Fortunately, it just isn't happening. Yeah, those Rocketeers making it to the back line. The gunship's trying to shut them down as quick as possible, but my goodness, they're going on a tear. Rocketeers in the back line, never a good sign. Far from an assault unit, I would say. The Rocketeers definitely much more of a siege power. But there we go. Eventually cleaned up with the grunt production here from the, the Seafoam Green Commander. That's going to be none other than Zaro. Not Zoro, but Zaro, sending out a whole bunch of these. Ooh, yeah, Tank Commander moving in here. Tries to go for the D-gun. Forced backwards by the units. I like the play right there, Mirror Zero, but it was a little bit too slow. If that commander had been alongside the push initially, might have been able to D-gun down that Rattlesnake. Now it's not the case anymore, and now Mirror Zero's in a lot of trouble. Goes down to the Rattlesnake, and the Grunts pushing forward, and just like that, the Blue Commander has well secured this position. This Rattlesnake is going to be very hard to push into. You can see it whittling away these T1 units brutally. Oh my goodness, yeah. The AoE effect on that is very punishing for any of these units, these T1 units that normally would benefit greatly from being swarmed out and in numbers snowballing quite harshly. The Rattlesnake turns that on its head and becomes very efficient as those units tend to bundle up. And there we go. One by one, the Rattlesnake is picking them apart. 13 kills already, and I'm sure that's bound to grow. There we go. Metal Extractor falls right there as well. Yeah. This is a great utilization of one of those static defenses. Perfect positioning and getting immense value right here. And it looks like we're even going to go for a second one. Sure. Why not? All this T1 chaff is efficient to blast to splinters and eat up afterwards. Makes a lot of sense to go ahead and go for something like that. Meanwhile, a bunch of T1 twin guards are being set up here while the Hounds are actively blasting them apart. One of the things about these T1 defenses is that they rapidly lose their power as the T2 units start to scale up. T2 Hounds have really no problems with blasting down those T1 statics. T1 units just as well. See the thugs melting rapidly here. It looks like because of no micro from these from the Seafoam Green Commander, maybe the Hulk Green Commander wall. One of those Hounds will go down, but one more of them stays up and running. A couple more of those Hounds on the front line, and I think we're going to be in a good way. Looks like we've gone ahead and gone for a Sharpshooter, another excellent option. Obviously, the one-click wonder. Every time it fires, it kills something, and the Agitator here. The Gauntlet, rather, pardon me. Going to be very annoying. Yeah, there we go. Firing away into the distance. No, no radar jammer, nothing like that, so this Gauntlet has free reign to fire away. Trying to chip down as many of these units as possible. A row of perimeter cameras as well, going to be wonderful for scouting purposes, allowing this Gauntlet to fire at full accuracy. Full visual accuracy, anyway. There's always, a little bit of here and there based on, barrel temperature and wind conditions, all that sort of stuff. But for the most part, the Gauntlet is a pretty accurate system, I would say. You can actually see it. A little yellow line indicates the accuracy, and so you can see left to right there, the sort of sway of the gun is actually relatively accurate. Very, very accurate. The forward, backwards, the length of the inaccuracy, a little bit higher there. Rattlesnakes making a wonderful argument for themselves here. Yeah. Resbots now rushing out into the field to reclaim this nearly 2,500 metal worth of reclaim in the center. Going to be feeding it all back into the economy right here for Zaro, the Seafoam Green commander, up on the high grounds right now, who's going to be going ahead and trying to build, at the very least, as much T2 as possible. We have a fusion reactor coming up for the blue commander. Hopefully some metal be dumped over to the blue commander. Oh my goodness, the wind speed. 2.7 wind speed is just atrocious. Meanwhile, welders, oh, what a beautiful composition over here. We've got welders supported by a fat boy, supported by a row of shell shockers. Shell shockers great for firing up and over the hillsides that sometimes might stand in the way here. The fat boy, of course, wonderful for clearing away any of that T1 chaff that tends to bundle up and group up and become a problem. Also wonderful for sieging positions. It is a high-density projectile, so it does fire a rather large concussive blast. Basically, that is to say the AoE is immense. It's a tool that ought to be feared by any unit that hold hands and stands close together. Welders, of course, decent anti-spam as well, but their main function here is just to serve as a blockade force so that that fat boy doesn't get overwhelmed. The flamethrower turret doing a wonderful job here, blasting down medium tanks. One of the most efficient static defenses I want to say against those medium tanks. There's very few static defenses that actually hold up against those medium tanks, can do enough damage to really be worth it. The flamethrower turret is definitely one such example. Amputator area control cluster artillery does come up and running right here. The Decurion tank firing away as well. Looks like a amputator has already been set up here by the Maroon commander though, and it will start to be, well, it's already been blasting away here at the green base. Ooh, what was that? Oh, it must have been an arquebus. Yeah, an arquebus firing a heavy impact shot and delivering that blow directly to the amputator. Manages to shut down that medium range plasma cannon before it can actually do all too much damage. Arquebus, a dangerous force on the front line. Somewhere between a Sheldon and a sharpshooter. They fire relatively faster than a sharpshooter. They do have similar mobility, I would say, to a Sheldon, but slightly less range. But they fire a huge burst of damage that can be very difficult to deal with, especially if we manage to put any of those pinpointers up and running, and it doesn't look like we have any up and running so far. One of the most useful tools available for Legion commanders are the pinpointers, because so many of their tools rely on rail cannons and other things that mostly want to be firing out into the fog of war. Yeah, those pinpointers are important to remember. Armada obviously benefiting immensely as well, only for the fact that sharpshooters will fire more accurately into the fog of war. 3 pinpointers is really all it takes to be 100% accurate. Technically speaking, you're like 99.99% accurate or something like that. It might be less than that, actually. It might be like 98% accurate, but it's close enough that basically any unit you fire at, you'll hit. The push is actually repulsed on this side. Spooter friend, trying to push forward as quick as possible. A talented commander, Spooter friend. Definitely one that I've seen here and there a lot, and definitely seen play well above what you would normally consider the 20 open skill level. Retreating the forces here, sacrificing the T1. These Shell Shocker, obviously not meant for frontline combat, struggling slightly. Sheldon going to be even more dangerous to go up against here. I think this is a solid retreat. Moving these forces back so that they're not being lost to the Sheldon aimlessly makes a lot of sense. Until you get a couple sharpshooters on the front line, which is exactly what Spooter Friend is going to be going for, you basically don't have a solution to the Sheldon, rather. There's not really anything you can do that's efficient enough to deal with those Sheldon. Sharpshooter is one of the few things that can reach out far enough and do enough burst damage to actually relatively efficiently kill them. But you can see the Arquebus putting in serious work right here. The Decurion going down rather quickly. Every time one of those fire, it's a huge burst of damage. The commander here actually taking immense damage as well. 65%. Curious what another blast looks like. Yeah, about 10% per shot. That's pretty good. That is pretty good. Nicely done. An excellent snipe right there from the Maroon commander. Manages to pick off the Green commander right there with these long-range sniper bots. These tripedal, or no, sexpedal? Yeah. These six-legged sniper bots. Another one of their skills, sort of a weird one, a niche one that definitely doesn't show up all the time, but is important. They're actually anti-air. Yeah, believe it or not, these bots are actually effective anti-air. Single target anti-air, which is a little bit strange. Usually not what we see, not what we expect, but it does work quite well, especially against big bombers or especially dragons. One of those units that's usually quite difficult to deal with, but Legion commanders can actually tend to deal with quite nicely here. Fat Boy firing into the distance. Boom goes the radar jammer bot. Nicely done, because of course removing that radar jammer clears up the view here and allows you to see what exactly you're aiming at a little bit clearer. That Fat Boy actually with enough range to contest these. Just barely, but enough range nonetheless. Oh, what a funky micro battle here. On the retreat, the Fat Boy can actually connect with those arquebuses. On the offensive, the arquebuses have the advantage. What a funky kind of what a funky kind of back and forth. Big bombing wave gearing. Oh, it's not a bombing wave at all. It's my favorite Legion unit. It's none other than the Phoenix. The Planet Glass are well known for their ability to turn an entire enemy base to nothing but a charred ruin. Firing away their beauty beams. Oh, I love it. Burn them to the ground. Purge the heretic. Glass their world. I love Phoenixes so much. They are easily my favorite unit in the entire game. Oh, what a cool unit. Firing away their little Inferno death lasers at whatever base they can find. Already popping an advanced fusion reactor here for the Seafoam Green Commander. They're also moving forward into the backline. Relatively tanky as well as another one of their obvious benefits. Boom go the fusion reactors easily right there as they come back around for another run. I love the Phoenix because they're such a versatile tool as well. You can use them for pinpoint targeted strikes. Their beam does a huge burst of damage, so it's always viable to go for these targeted strikes like that. Geothermal goes up right there for our Green Commander as well. They also do a wonderful job of strafing, though. Yeah, usually when they sort of strafe across the surface of an area, obviously they cover a nice long line. So if you have enough of them in an area, you can actually do a huge amount of work with just a couple of them. Fighters trying their very best to shut these down, but my goodness, they are difficult to deal with. Oh. Fighters absorbing some of the shot, but just two Phoenixes able to... Whoa, nuclear bomb right there. Just two Phoenixes able to blast down that advanced geothermal. Nuclear bomb, however, takes out the base right here for the Dark Blue Commander, Presitor. Where'd that nuke come from? Somebody in the backline built a nuke. There it is. Thermonuclear launcher. In fact, it's the Supernova, the nuclear ICBM launcher here for the Legion faction. T2 Legion faction, able to launch their little pill-shaped nuclear bomb. I do wonder if it's the same cost, actually, as a Cortex nuke here. 7,700 metal for the nuclear launcher, 7,700. Yep, looks like it's about the exact same, just a little bit of a reskin. There's a lot of Legion stuff that tends to be the same way. Oh, can't miss out. Sorry, I'm so distracted by these Phoenix, but they're so cool. There they go. They find another Aphis, and boom goes the base of the Cyan Commander on the northern side as well. K-Sulfur loses it all to another strafing run from the Phoenix. If ever there was a unit as cool as the Phoenix, I think Beyond All Reason definitely deserves it. What a cool unit to watch work. Now just tearing apart whatever they can over here. Some of these doubling back, needing a little bit of micro. Lining up for their strafing run here against these fusion reactors. There they go, firing away. There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, with some overwhelming bombing runs, a beautiful nuclear connection and aggression all around. Some nice static defensing as well, but overall I want to give the huge credit to Launch 27 for managing to land those strafing runs in critical targets. The blue team is forced to yield via overwhelming economic might. What a beautiful end to that game. I love the Phoenixes so much, and if you do too, please feel free to subscribe and join the Brightworks. You can also click on that link down below to take you to the Discord, where we have more members of the community submitting replays as awesome as this all the time. You're also welcome to check out. Other than that, though, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I sure hope you enjoyed the cast, and I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason. Peace out, everybody.